What if the very part of yourself you've been trying to silence is not an obstacle but a doorway? What if the hidden weight that keeps you from moving forward, the resistance you feel every time you repeat an affirmation or visualize a new reality, is not there to stop but to lead you into a deeper dimension of your own power? You have probably felt that quiet frustration of doing everything right, meditating, journaling, repeating mantra, visualizing abundance, and still finding yourself circling back into the same pattern. You ask yourself, almost in secret, why does nothing change for me? Perhaps you felt as though your energy is blocked, as though the flow of life refuses to move no matter how much intention you pour into it. And beneath it all, a quiet fear arises. Maybe something in me is broke. Heart, I want you to know this. You are not broke. You are carrying a script that was written long before you were aware. A script etched into your subconscious during childhood, reinforced by family patterns, cultural beliefs, and unspoken fears. Bruce Lipton reminds us that these subconscious programs run 95% of our daily lives, as if invisible hands were flipping genetic switches, shaping not only our behavior, but the biology of our cells. And Joe Dispenza adds another dimension. When your thoughts and feelings are divided, your electromagnetic field becomes fragmented, incoherent. The result is that the life you try to manifest arrives distorted, incomplete, or sometimes doesn't arrive at all. This is where we meet what I call the quantum shadow. It is not darkness to be feared. It is not a flaw to be erased. It is the unintegrated energy of your own hidden potentials, locked away in the unconscious. The shadow's not an enemy. It is a part of you that you exiled long ago because it seemed too heavy, too threatening, too unacceptable. And yet, within that same shadow lies the very energy you are seeking, your creativity, your vitality, your magnetism. By rejecting, you also reject the fuel that could expand your reality. Think of it like this. The shadow is a vault, sealed tight, covered in dust, intimidating in its silence. Most people avoid it because of how it looks. But inside that vault lie treasure, memories, emotion, instincts, strengths that have been waiting patiently for you to return. By turning away from it, you starve yourself of your own inheritance. By daring to face it, you discover that what once looked like darkness was only a doorway to deeper light. So, as we begin this journey, I invite you to slow down. Notice the weight in your chest, the restlessness in your body, the thoughts that whisper, "Not enough." Do not rush to push them away. Do not cover them with positivity too quick. Allow them to be, just for a moment, as witnesses to your hidden script. Because until you see the script, you cannot rewrite it. And until you embrace the shadow, you cannot unlock the vastness of your own life. This is not about healing what is broken. This is about reclaiming what was hidden. It is about discovering that the very places you resist hold the key to your expansion. And today, as we step into this conversation together, I ask, are you ready to open the vault? The silent saboteur. How unconscious. Beliefs block quantum potential. There is a kind of silence that does not come from peace, but from something hidden beneath the surface of your own being. It is the silence of unconscious belief, operating quietly in the background, shaping your choices, distorting your energy, and convincing you that you are moving forward when, in truth, you are walking in circles. Many people live this way, working, dreaming, hoping, yet repeating the same frustration as if tied to an invisible thread that pulls them back just when life seems ready to open. This is why so many wake up with the bitter taste of defeat, even after doing their best. They pray for change. They visualize abundance. They set intentions with sincerity, but their reality feels strangely unresponsive. It is not that their effort is wasted, it is that their inner vibration is fractured. They try to manifest light while their subconscious still hums with the low notes of fear, guilt, or unworthiness. This hidden disharmony acts like static in a signal, distorting the message sent to the universe. Bruce Lipton has shown us that these subconscious programs, most of them written in early childhood, govern the vast majority of our daily behavior. They are not conscious decisions, but silent codes etched into our biology, like switches that can dim or brighten the expression of life itself. And what are these codes made of? They are formed by experiences that once felt overwhelming, moments when love seemed absent, when approval was withheld, when safety was threatened. These moments did not vanish. They sank deep into the subconscious, where they continue to repeat as invisible scripts. But here is the truth, hidden within the silence. The shadow is not weakness. It is energy stored and denied, waiting for its transformation. That unworthiness you carry is not who you are. It is a program written long ago. That fear that paralyzes your choices is not your essence. It is an old survival code that once protected. When you begin to see these patterns not as evidence of failure, but as lines of program, you awaken to the possibility that the code can be rewritten. Picture a computer running on an outdated system. No matter how many upgrades you try to install, the old virus keeps interrupting the process, creating errors and slowing progress. Until you clean the code, the system cannot evolve. This is the way the subconscious works. Outdated programs cannot carry the weight of your new visions. To unlock the reality you long for, you must first become aware of the silent saboteur within, the unspoken beliefs that keep pulling you back. And so, the first movement of integration is awareness, not judgment, not rejection, awareness. To look at your recurring emotion, fear of failure, chronic doubt, the endless sense of not being enough, and recognize them as not truths. Each belief is only a code, written in the language of survival, not the language of your soul. And when you begin to recognize the code, you no longer confuse it with your identity. You stand before it as the conscious creator, aware that what was once hidden is now ready to be transformed. The shadow does not destroy. The shadow conceals, and in its concealment lies the possibility of rebirth. The saboteur, once unmasked, becomes not an enemy but a messenger, whispering, "Here is the place where your power has been waiting." The biology of the shadow, epigenetics, and the energy of suppressed emotions. There is a weight the body remembers even when the mind tries to forget. It lingers in the chest, in the stomach, in the quiet ache of sleepless nights. These are not simply emotions passing through. They are stored imprints, echoes of unprocessed pain that shape the way your body and energy move through the world. Many carry the burdens of their families, their ancestors, or the unspoken wounds of childhood, believing it to be only personality. But beneath the surface, these imprints are not fixed traits. They are programs inscribed into biology, waiting to be rewritten. Bruce Lipton reminds us that our genes are not rigid instructions carved in stone, but responsive switches. They turn on or off, depending on the environment in which they are baked. And environment is not just the air we breathe or the food we eat. It is also the field of our beliefs, the atmosphere of our emotions, the frequency of our thoughts. When emotions are suppressed, when fear, grief, or anger are swallowed instead of felt, the body reads this as stress. Stress chemistry floods the cells, narrowing possibility, dimming vitality, locking us into survival mode. Over time, this becomes not just a mood, but a biology. This is why cycles repeat across generations. A mother's unspoken fear becomes her child's unexplainable anxiety. A father's unexpressed grief echoes in the nervous system of his descendants. It is not destined, it is programmed. And yet, programming can be changed. The shadow carried in your biology is not a life sentence. It is energy held in suspension, awaiting the moment of integration. Think of your body as a piano. Each belief, each memory, each emotion is a key, but some of those keys have grown sticky, stuck in place by years of suppression. You sit before the instrument of your own being and try to play a new melody, but the song comes out incomplete. Certain notes will not sound, others repeat in dissonance, creating frustration where you long for harmony. Shadow work, then, is the gentle art of tuning the instrument, of freeing the stuck keys so that the music of your soul can flow again. When the shadow is acknowledged rather than denied, something profound happens. The suppressed emotion is no longer an enemy hidden in the dark, but a signal guiding you to a part of yourself that has been waiting for recognition. As coherence is restored, the body begins to shift. Stress responses quiet, vibrations realign. Life no longer feels like an endless loop of inherited patterns, but a living flow of new possibility. This is the biology of transformation, not through force, not through denial, but through the integration of what was once cast aside. When the body is tuned, when the shadow is allowed its place in the melody, you no longer carry the past as a burden, you carry it as resonance. And resonance is what allows your song to finally be whole. Why most people fail at shadow work, the trap of spiritual bypassing. There comes a moment in the spiritual path when silence feels more like emptiness than peace. You sit in meditation, you visualize a brighter future, you whisper affirmations into the night, and still, something inside remains unsettled. Instead of relief, there is a subtle void. Instead of clarity, a sense that the heart is still carrying a weight it cannot name. This is the silent frustration of many seekers, the feeling of doing everything right and still remaining in the same inner place. The reason for this is not lack of discipline or absence of sincerity. It is the hidden trap of bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is the attempt to cover deep wounds with the surface of positivity. It is the habit of painting light over shadow, of using meditation not as a gateway to wholeness, but as a shield against discomfort. And what happens to emotions when they are denied? They do not dissolve. They gather force. They wait beneath the surface like a beach ball held underwater, pressing harder the deeper you push them down. Eventually, they resurface with even greater intensity. This is why so many people repeat cycles of emptiness despite their devotion. They have confused healing with avoidance. They have mistaken silence for presence when in fact it was suppression. The shadow, ignored, does not vanish. It becomes heavy, more insistent, more disruptive. The very act of resisting amplifies its voice. And so the cycle continues. More affirmation, more visualization, more desperate attempts to feel only positive, while the deeper wounds remain untouched. But the truth is gentle, though it asks for courage. The emotions we most fear, anger, grief, jealousy, disappointment, are not evidence of weakness. They are messengers carrying unmet needs, unspoken truths, and forgotten parts of the self. When we reject them, we reject the wisdom they hold. When we embrace them, even in their rough clothes, we begin to recover fragments of our own wholeness. This is why shadow integration requires presence rather than escape, to feel anger without condemning it, to sit with grief without rushing to erase it, to breathe through the storm of doubt and ask soft, what truth is hidden inside? In this way, emotion ceases to be a threat and becomes a guide. What once felt like a weight reveals itself as a sign pointing the way to deeper coherence. The shadow is not an enemy crouching in the dark. It is an ally wearing a disguise, waiting for the moment you will stop turning away. And when that moment comes, you begin to discover that even the most difficult emotions carry light within them. Not the blinding light of denial, but the steady glow of truth. And it is this glow, once uncovered, that begins to guide you out of the cycle of bypass into the authentic rhythm of healing. Quantum integration, transforming fear into fuel for expansion. There are moments when fear grips so strongly that even the simplest step forward feels impossible. The body tightens, the mind fills with doubt, and the heart hesitates at the edge of possibility. Many people know this feeling intimate, the paralysis that comes not from lack of desire, but from the invisible force of fear that whispers, you are not ready, you are not enough, you will fail. And yet, what if fear itself is not here to stop but to guide you? Fear is energy. It is movement compressed into a single point, like a storm waiting to break. When it is denied or suppressed, it hardens, freezing your capacity to create. But when fear is brought into awareness, when it is allowed to be seen without judgment, its energy shifts. Bruce Lipton reminds us that the body responds completely differently when fear is observed consciously than when it is hidden in the subconscious. Suppressed fear locks the body in survival mode, flooding it with stress chemistry. Acknowledged fear, on the other hand, begins to lose its edge. It transforms from enemy into information, from paralysis into momentum. The paradox is that fear carries the same raw energy as courage, only misdirected. It is a signal pointing toward the places where expansion is waiting. The very areas of life where you feel most afraid are often the same places where your deepest growth is asking to emerge. Seen this way, fear becomes not a barrier, but a compass. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this feeling? The question turns into, what is this fear pointing me toward? Imagine a spring wound, tight coiled with pressure. First glance, it appears only tense, only restricted, but the truth is that within its compression lies enormous potential. The moment the tension is released, the spring does not collapse. It expands with force, with direction, with momentum. Fear works the same way. It is potential energy, waiting to be redirected. Suppression keeps it locked. Conscious presence releases it into motion. The deeper invitation, then, is not to eliminate fear, but to transform its energy, to recognize that what feels like threat may also be fuel, that within every doubt lies the possibility of trust, that within every hesitation lies the chance to discover your true strength. Fear becomes a door, and on the other side of that doorway is expansion. This is the heart of quantum integration. It is the realization that even the emotions we have been taught to dread carry within them the codes of creation. The shadow of fear, when embraced, becomes a source of energy more powerful than certain. It becomes the very force that propels you into alignment with the life you long for. And in that moment, what once held you back becomes the very fuel that moves you forward. Signs you're already integrating your quantum shadow. Integration does not always announce itself with fireworks. More often, it arrives quiet, like the soft light of dawn spreading across the horizon. Many people imagine that transformation will be sudden, dramatic, impossible to miss. But the truth is that when the shadow begins to integrate, the signs are subtle, delicate, almost ordinary. They emerge not in grand gesture, but in the smallest shifts of being. Perhaps you notice that situations which once triggered deep anxiety no longer carry the same weight. Where before your chest would tighten and your mind would spiral, now there is a pause, a breath, a steadiness. The emotion is still there, but it no longer rules you. Or maybe you realize that vulnerability no longer feels like weakness. You find yourself speaking honestly about what hurts, not with shame, but with a quiet strength, as if our authenticity itself has become a shield. These are the early signs of integration, the moments when coherence begins to return, the nervous system softens, the constant tension in the body eases. Synchronicities appear, not always as miracles, but as small alignments that tell you life is flowing different. A meeting at the right time, a message you needed to hear, a gentle sense that you are being guided even in uncertainty. One of the most overlooked signs is the change in how you relate to criticism. Once, a harsh word might have shattered your confidence, leaving you collapsed within yourself. But now, something has shifted. You hear the same words, yet instead of spiral, you see them as feedback, as information. The sting is still there, but it no longer defines you. This is not the absence of shadow, but the proof that its energy has begun to work with you instead of against you. The metaphor is simple. When the shadow is denied, it is like a heavy cloak you drag behind you, exhausting and dark. But when it is integrated, the same cloak becomes a lantern. Its fabric, once suffocated, is transformed into light that illuminates your path. This is why the signs of integration are often so subtle. They are not about becoming someone new. They are about becoming more yourself, steady, whole, at ease within your own skin. So if you have noticed even the smallest shifts, less tension in the unknown, more presence in your breath, a growing trust in the unfolding, know that integration is already. It does not need to be loud. It does not need to be dramatic. It only needs to be true. And truth, even when quiet, always carries the power to guide you forward. The power hidden in what you resist. There is a strange paradox at the heart of our spiritual journey. The very places we resist, the very emotions we try to escape, the very memories we bury deepest, are the ones carrying our greatest potential. What we call shadow is not brokenness, not failure, not defect. It is unexpressed energy, unclaimed truth, creative codes that have been locked away beneath the surface of consciousness. The shadow is not an absence of light. It is light waiting for permission to shine. Bruce Lipton has shown us that the subconscious is programmable. The hidden patterns that run our lives, the silent beliefs that dictate our choices, are not permanent. They are switches that can be turned, codes that can be rewritten. And when you integrate the shadow, you do not just heal the mind, you reshape the body, the cell, the biology of your being. Every time you embrace what you once resisted, you shift the internal environment that your genes respond to. You become the author of your own script, no longer bound by the invisible inheritance of the past. Neville Goddard carried this truth into another dimension. He reminded us that imagination itself is creation. But what happens when imagination is fractured? When part of you dreams while another part resists? When hidden guilt or fear quietly sabotages your vision, the result is a creation born in fragments. By integrating the shadow, imagination becomes whole again. The creative force of your mind is no longer divine. Your inner pictures, once clouded by denial, become clear, vivid, magnetic. And here lies the final revelation. Shadow integration is not about fixing what is broken. It is about unlocking what was never locked. The parts of you you feared, denied, or abandoned are not mistakes. They are potential, waiting for your recognition. What you resist does not disappear. It waits. It waits for the day you are strong enough, gentle enough, willing enough to open the door. So let us close with this truth. The shadow is not a wall to overcome. It is a door. And behind that door lies a vast room of hidden potential, treasures you have carried all along. To walk through that door is to discover that nothing essential was ever missing. It was only waiting for your return. Take these words into your heart. I welcome my shadow. I unlock my hidden codes. I am whole. I am free. I am aligned. And as you speak them, know that every step you take into the depths of yourself is also a step into the vastness of your light. The shadow is no longer a burden, it has become your guide. And in that embrace, your life begins to unfold with a new coherence, a new freedom, and a new radiance that was within you all along.